Okay, part 2 of History of Power Rangers, Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue, coming at you right about now.
The Rangers shoot at the cocoon, unleashing Impus's more evolved form, Prince Olympius. Carter, being a badass, just keeps charging the guy even though Olympius smacks him around. A few episodes later, the planets align, and thanks to a mystical ceremony, Queen Bansheera's spirit is able to resume a physical form, but only briefly, half-formed and encased in stone, as Ryan destroys the ceremony site where she was being summoned. With Bansheera's return, Ryan elects to leave and search for a way to trap the demons again. With Ryan gone, Fairweather modifies the battle booster so they can operate the Max Solar Zord as well as yet another giant robot, the Omega Megazord. And for the record, that is the most frickin' awesomest name for a Megazord ever. A few fillers later, Bansheera decides that Olympius has failed far too often and will give Viper and Lokai command of the evil forces.
Wow.
Olympius tricks them, planning to destroy them, but they escape and end up near the desert tomb. They enter it and use a spell to resurrect Diabolico, Ryan watching from nearby. Diabolico tries to confront Olympius, but Bansheera stops the fight, saying their petty squabbles are meaningless. Ryan, in the meantime, copies all of the glyphs off of the tomb's walls and heads off to try to find someone who can translate them. At 29 episodes into the season, we cut to the planet Mirror,
this is the
Take
crossover.
his Quasar Saber out of the rock and morph. An evil force he was fighting mysteriously teleports away and travels through a wormhole to Earth. Yep, it's time for the season's team-up. On Earth, the evil forces take people prisoner in an office building to extract their life force for a woman in shadows. The daughter of two of the kidnapped people tries to warn people of what she saw.
Now you know, dear, there's no such thing as monsters.
You live in a city that is constantly under attack by monsters, and the Power Rangers are known public figures without secret identities, not to mention the fact that the Earth was invaded and almost conquered a few years ago by monsters. Lady, I officially declare you dumbest person in Power Rangers ever.
Look, I'm saying this right now. I don't know why they made that, these scenes on Power Rangers period when people say this shit, knowing the fact that where they live at, there are monsters coming down and are wrecking the entire city and the buildings and kidnapping people and using them for energy or a different power source and whatnot, or just terrorizing them and shit. And you see the Power Rangers trying to destroy these monsters and keep them at bay. What kind of world do you live in where you just deny everything that's happening around you? Oh, wait. That's this world. Continue.
Olympius believes that the monsters are doing this for Bansheera, but when he leaves, the woman emerges from the shadows, Trakina, wearing a mask that covers up burnt sections of her face. Oh, and speaking in a different voice, what a shock. Carter comes across the little girl who tells him about the attack, as well as about a monster disguised as a man.
You don't believe me, do you?
No, if anything, he believes you.
Actually, I do.
You do?
Now I'm gonna check this guy out. You stay right here.
Carter Grayson, not an idiot.
Right.
Leo somehow makes it to Earth and meets up with the other Rangers.
Hey, you're Leo. The Red Ranger.
How the hell does she know that? Carter's trailing of the guy is interrupted by the ghouls, the foot soldiers of the monsters helping Trakina. However, Kai and Maya arrive to help him. Back at the
out of nowhere,
Leo explains about the final battle he had with Trakina before the two teams go off to face a disturbance. And, of course, bring the little girl with them. The monsters knock them around for a bit before just leaving for no reason, and Carter hatches a plan with the little girl, telling her to go in and pull the fire alarm in the building. Why don't the Rangers just pull rank on the building and tell them to evacuate the building to get them out? Or rather, why the hell are they sending the little girl to pull the fire alarm when Carter could just do it himself?
They're giving the little girl screen time. Just let it be. Just let it be, Linkar. Just let it be. They're giving the little girl some time, some purpose. All right, some whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's whatever. It's whatever. All right, it's whatever.
Leo and Carter destroy the monster and head in alone for some reason, but are aided by Kendricks and Damon, who suddenly show up.
Out of nowhere.
The Rangers join up and they morph.
Guys, ready?
Ready! Go, Galactic! Galaxy red! Galaxy
Green.
Galaxy blue!
Galaxy yellow. Galaxy pink.
Lightspeed! Rescue! Red ring, rescue red! Blue ring, red! Green ring, rescue red!
Yellow ring, rescue red. Pink ring, rescue red.
Yes, it was very important that they told us what color they are, because you know how hard it is to distinguish colors. Olympia's
Tradition!
show up while
Tradition.
Trakina starts to transfer the life force energy into her, mutating her back into her insect form. However, Olympias infects her form with a poison that mutates her into a giant insect monster. The two teams summon their Zords and fight Trakina, the Galaxy Rangers even entering the Omega Megazord and enhancing it with the lights of Orion. The Galaxy Rangers depart in their jet jammers with no explanation ever given how the hell they made it back to Earth. Well, people claim it was that wormhole we saw in the beginning, but where that came from and how the Rangers learned how to access it is another matter altogether. Trakina's revenge is a huge disappointment, for me especially, since I've been looking forward to it all season. It's not that the two-parter is bad, but it's just so average. The Galaxy Rangers are barely in it, and we spend far too much time with Carter and the little girl bonding. Why don't producers ever understand this? We do not watch Power Rangers for little kids. Little kids are terrible actors who can't fight and take away valuable time from the reason we are here. Superheroes fighting bad guys and the giant robots. Admittedly, this little girl isn't that terrible in her delivery, but again, she's not what we came for. Originally, the team-up was released months ahead of the airing on TV as a video from McDonald's. Don't ask me how
Ain't
that
that some
works.
shit?
All I know is there must have been some very disappointed kids. The cast of Lost Galaxy had been promised a reunion movie, but instead got this. As a result, Danny Slavin, who played Leo, walked off the set after they finished first unit work. Amy Miller, who played Trakina in Lost Galaxy, did show up for shooting, but after learning that a little girl was going to get more screen time than the Galaxy cast, also walked off before they could film anything with her.
Damn!
Ryan locates the Sorcerer of the Sands, which turns out to be a bird, to translate the glyphs. He initiates the spell to reseal the demons, but Diabolico counters the spell, reducing the Sorcerer to dust. In the same episode, Olympias is sent to a shadow dimension and sealed there by Diabolico, but it turns out his mother doesn't even care, since he's failed so often. Jeez, I've heard of negligent parents, but wow.
Wow.
Jinxer remains loyal to the prince, however, and instructs him to absorb the other monsters in the realm, mutating him and enhancing his powers. After he escapes, a spell to Captain Mitchell causes him to transfer the Aquabase's power into Olympias. They eventually manage to destroy the star power, but he's severely weakened by the incident. We actually got 3 battleizers this season in the form of the Mega Battlers. One for Chad, one for Joel, and one for Carter. None for Dana or Kelsey because, you know, they're girls and stuff.
That's bullshit.
Carter's is actually a motorcycle that converts into his arm.
No, look, that's bullshit. We need battleizers for women, alright? I realized that, you know, after these few series of Power Rangers happened, the women were getting more, you know, weapon armor and stuff, but it shouldn't be always the guys. Why can't the girls have, you know, the updated weaponry and armor and stuff? It doesn't make sense.
Armored form. They don't look overly silly like previous ones, possibly because they're mostly just big guns, though I really have to question the skis on Carter's. Seriously, unless they're just armored greaves, adding feet to the battleizers always looks silly. In the final few episodes, Queen Banshira's transformation back to normal starts to take hold. Because of her many failures, Vipera is absorbed as the last bit of energy she needs.
I should have done this long ago. You're the me. Sorry.
Well, see ya.
Oh, now you learn how to act. Little late for that now, lady. Loki goes to Banshira for the chance to destroy the Rangers, but before he does, he gives Diabolico a new power source.
I wish you luck. Before I go, I want to give you this for being my loyal friend throughout the millenniums. There! May it bring you luck! Thank you, Lokai. Be careful, old friend.
Wait, why are they only now making these two buddy buds?
Right.
Banshira tricks 4 of the Rangers to the dimension where the demon's lair is and forces Diabolico to shoot at them while Lokai is in the path, destroying him. Diabolico swears off his allegiance to Banshira, who sees her minions as expendable. Banshira uses Diabolico's energy to attack the Rangers, Carter arriving to save them. Diabolico tells him where to strike Banshira, and he runs off to attack her. Carter goes right in with his best "I am a man" punch and hits Banshira. The blast sends the Rangers out of the dimension, but Banshira follows and grows. The Rangers force her into a tree, and Diabolico swears revenge for Lokai. However, Olympius intercepts him, and the two battle, Olympius managing to overpower him and bring him to Banshira, who drains his power and makes him a mindless slave. But only briefly, as the Rangers get him to remember what Banshira did to him and the others. Olympius takes control of Diabolico again, but not before he hands Carter a key that the Sorcerer of the Sands had said would help re-imprison the demons. In the ensuing battle, the Megazords are severely damaged. Carter, just to show how badass he is, charges right at the giant Diabolico and shoots at him.
Come on, you bastards! Take a shot at me right in the nose!
At the last second, Dana and Kelsey come to the rescue in the Life Force Megazord, which takes energy directly from the Rangers. Seems kinda dangerous and silly, but hey, it does the trick, utterly destroying Diabolico and Olympius. The key becomes a glyph, and Jinxer reveals to Banshira that he placed a battling card on the leg of the Life Force Megazord, meaning that the Rangers will be bringing batlings into the Aquabase. The season comes to a close in The Fate of Lightspeed. Ryan contacts the team and learns Banshira's plan to resurrect all the fallen monsters from the Shadow Dimension. However, Banshira intercepts the transmission and takes Ryan prisoner before he can elaborate. While Carter heads to the other dimension to rescue Ryan, Jinxer activates the battling card, releasing hundreds of them into the Aquabase. The Rangers quickly get to work fighting them off as the workers flee, though we quickly see that the Aquabase's defense personnel are pretty pitiful, just running around with riot shields. To make matters worse, the Batlings commandeer the Life Force Megazord and bring it out of the base, having it openly attack the Aquabase. Captain Mitchell goes into shock, and Fairweather takes command, ordering the crew of the Aquabase to evacuate. Mitchell remains on the command deck as the place falls apart around him.
Everything I've worked so hard for, it's gone.
They convince him to leave, but the Megazord attacks the connecting tube, cutting off their only way to escape.
Wow.
To make matters worse, the glass in operations starts to crack. Carter, in the meantime, frees Ryan. The two morph and start fighting however they can, though of course it's a matter of them being simply outnumbered. Jinxer and the Batlings take the disabled Omega Megazord to complete the Queen's plan. Banshira expels the two Rangers as water starts seeping into the Aquabase, ending Part 1. Part 2 begins with the Rangers pretty consigned to their fate, but as they view the damage the Omega's Megazord is causing...
Jesus Christ.
We got work to do.
How you gonna get out?
They locate a flooded maintenance shaft that leads to the submarine bay, and Chad swims for it to see if he can reach it. Banshira brings her temple to the city as Chad returns, saying they can reach the sub bay. They make it out just as the bridge finishes collapsing. They reach the sub, but the Batlings intercept and stop their descent. However, Joel fires the sub's torpedoes, bringing water in around them for their escape. They shoot torpedoes again to knock the Life Force Megazord out of the way and destroy it, taking the Aquabase with it. Carter and Ryan take out the Omega Megazord, but it drops the last stone into place to finish the ceremony. The rest of the Rangers arrive and morph as the final phases of Banshira's plan begins.
Ceremony's over, Banshira.
We're here to make sure of that.
You're too late. Nothing can stop me now.
Nothing except us. And that's just what we're gonna do.
This was a good final episode. I want y'all to know.
As fast as they can, but Banshira completes the ceremony, Carter's helmet getting knocked off. He kicks Banshira into the crypt and gives Ryan the thumbs up, but on a nice twist on what happened in Lost Galaxy, Banshira grabs Carter and drags him down with her. He tells them to close the lid, but the spirit of Diabolico arrives and breaks Banshira's hold, allowing the Rangers to rescue Carter. They seal the lid, trapping Banshira in the Shadow Dimension. The temple collapses in Mariner Bay, and subsequently the world is saved. The Rangers hand in their morphers, and Joel even gets to have his date with Miss Fairweather, who he's been chasing throughout the season. However,
Lucky
as
bastard.
they spot a fire truck speeding by,
Okay, y'all, just because a fire truck speeds by and there's danger does not mean that y'all have to go and save. That's regular shit that the firefighters and anybody else can do. You don't have to do that, all right? Jesus. Of course, they look to Carter, and he has to go. And everybody else is like, well, fuck it. I'm going with him.
Don't go anywhere. I'm right back. Hey, you're gonna leave.
Yeah, and I'm just like, y'all going without your morphers, the fuck?
Lightspeed Rescue is very much a back-to-basics Ranger series and feels very reminiscent of the very first season. Thematically, it's an overt magic versus technology theme, with the Rangers' powers all completely developed by human hands, and we even have the scientists who designed their weapons working with them. The enemies were demons who were summoned by magic and frequently used magic spells and curses to further their designs. Another thing that felt reminiscent of the first season was the Titanium Ranger.
Yes.
First introduced as a villain, and his story had shades of the original Green Ranger saga.
Right.
And I don't mean any of that in a bad way. It felt very nostalgic in
Yes,
that sense.
it
Very
did.
enjoyable. Speaking of the Titanium Ranger, he's the first Power Ranger to ever be a completely American invention.
Right.
The Sentai that Lightspeed was based on didn't have a 6th Ranger, nor did it have a character like the Phantom Ranger that they could fill the 6th Ranger slot with.
Right.
So they made up the Titanium Ranger stuff. It's a pretty good job, too. Sure, it means they couldn't do as much with him because it required less Sentai footage, but he looked awesome and showed that American-created Rangers can work.
Right.
The season is mixed for me. There's a lot to like here. The Aqua Base and its staff was a very different sort of command center, and the new weapons being churned out on a regular basis felt very natural for a military operation to be doing. The rescue material wasn't quite as exciting as fighting monsters, but it really highlighted their status as superheroes. The Zords were made of solid metal awesome, and the characters themselves really grew on me. I'd say the season's biggest flaw and what drags it down is the villains. I'm sorry, but the demons only got interesting at the very end.
The very last second.
Shira and exhibited camaraderie with Lokai, something that was never apparent in the 30-plus episodes before it. Vipera was a terrible villain and always looked silly driving around in her car, and the other demons just didn't have any depth to them. Admittedly, the same could be said of Rita in the first season, but at least she scored some victories over the Rangers.
But no, in all seriousness, why do they keep making humanoid monsters? And not just like, humanoid monsters with like different colored skin, but humanoid monsters with the same freaking colored skin. Human faces, like normal human faces, but have like monster armor on them. The only one who doesn't count for this is the mutant in Time Force. What's her face? Rancic's daughter. I forget what her name is, but yeah, she's the only one that doesn't count. Everyone else, including her, like, why? We don't need a basic human to be like a monster or a demon like that. We don't need that.
The Demons never scored any major victories over the team this season until the very, very end, and that was more Banshira than the others. The
Right.
best plot revolved around Ryan, and when he left, a good chunk of interesting things left with him. Consider that we just came off of 2 seasons with very strong villains, including rather noble evildoers like Ecliptor and Villamax. Sure, Scorpius was boring as hell, but his death gave Trakina renewed life as the main villain of Lost Galaxy. The Batlings are really one of the most unimaginative foot soldiers ever. Admittedly, we are back to Sentai foot soldiers instead of original ones for the show that we've had for the last few seasons. But they're so bland. It's guys in black suits with tiny little fake wings and some goggles. At least the putties, while coming from Sentai footage, have the wrinkly, deformed face to fall back on and make them look alien. Watching the Batlings, I never got the impression they were demons. The point is that Lightspeed's main problem was its enemy, which is a shame because you certainly had potential with them. The Rangers themselves, though, I actually rather liked.
Me too.
Carter is a badass through and through.
Yes.
He's driven by his desire to live up to a firefighter who saved his life as a child, who turns out to have been Captain Mitchell. A lot of people call him bland, but I honestly don't
He's
see
not.
it. He
Not
takes
at
every
all.
opportunity to show how frickin' awesome he is. He tries to run over a monster. He pulls his gun to stop the enemy. He goes running at a giant monster with just his handguns. He didn't really undergo any development, but he didn't really need to. He was just awesome. Dana was doing just fine character-wise until a bizarre episode near the end called In the Limelight, wherein a fashion mogul out of the blue hires her to be their new model. All of a sudden, she's a big-time celebrity and becomes self-absorbed and completely disregards her ranger duties, despite never in the past indicating that she has those tendencies. It'd be one thing if she was under a spell or something, but this is just her suddenly, for no reason at all,
changing,
abandoning her post as defender of the friggin' city. She walks off during a training exercise, much to the amazement of her fellow rangers.
And you gonna let her leave just like that?
I have to trust her to make her own decisions.
Yeah, I appreciate that kind of sentiment from a father and all, but you are a military operation.
Right.
You are her commanding officer. Lives are at stake. If she isn't up to snuff, take away her morpher and give it to someone who actually gives a damn. Yeah, she eventually realizes the errors of her ways, being a ranger is more important and all that, blah, blah, blah. But the sudden shift in attitude is just so weird. It'd make more sense if it had happened earlier in the season. Otherwise, like Carter, there isn't a lot of change in her character, probably the blandest of the group. Chad had the most martial arts background, but it's odd. He was established in the first episode as the SeaWorld guy, and he didn't utilize those skills until near the end of the season. Instead, the martial arts background was the most emphasized. He's not given much of a personality, but we also see him frequently be friends with Kelsey, which again felt very reminiscent of the close friendship Billy and Trini had back in Season 1. Plus, he had a love interest in 2 filler episodes, a mermaid. Not much to say there, but hey, drama is good. Joel's personality did improve over time. In Rising from the Ashes, he expresses genuine concern about Dr. Fairweather's constant workload. His jerky behavior did finally give out by the end, and the most subtle expression of it was that in the last few episodes, he pretty much stopped wearing his cowboy hat.
Yeah,
sure,
he did.
Through most of the season, he was determined to bed Dr. Fairweather, but he had a good heart, and in the last episode, when he does score the date with her, he chooses to go with the other Rangers to answer the call. Ryan assisted the Rangers with exposition, having spent most of his life with the forces of evil, and therefore knew some of their plans ahead of time, as well as helping out and trying to stop the demons in a different way. Let's face it, Ryan was the only one among the group who was being proactive.
Yes,
the
he
others
was.
were essentially always going to be a rescue squad, responding to danger as it happened, but it didn't take any steps to finally put an end to Banshira's forces. Ryan was the one who went out and said, the demons aren't going anywhere, so I'm going to go figure out how to put them away for good.
Yeah.
Which is definitely a plus, despite not really having much personality after his initial episodes. At first, I wasn't sure exactly why Kelsey would be chosen to become a ranger. She's not exactly a martial arts expert, she's not a public servant, and she doesn't have any military training. However, seeing her in The Fifth Crystal showed her evading and fighting off monsters while on rollerblades. She's extraordinarily agile and quick on her feet. Her experience in sports and fitness actually are well suited for a profession where she has to adapt to quickly changing situations and getting people out of harm's way in a hurry. The downside is that she's impulsive and doesn't look before she leaps.
Right.
She ends up with the next most development. While she remains very outgoing and energetic throughout the series, an episode where she's almost killed because she failed to take her time made her a little less rash. I did not have a good first impression of Captain Mitchell in the initial few episodes. Instead of explaining anything, he just wagged his finger and assumed that the Rangers were going to learn something when they made a mistake. He never said why they should follow his orders, even though it would take like 2 seconds at most to explain them. Carter wants to save some people, but Mitchell orders him to put out a fire. Instead of saying, put out the fire, it's heading towards flammable gases and could kill you all, he just keeps repeating the order even while Carter is hesitating. When a dangerous fuel cell is being transported by the Rangers, he sends Dana to give an old friend of his a ride. He never tells her, oh, by the way, the fuel cell the Rangers are carrying is a decoy. My friend is carrying the real one. He just lets her yell at him for being condescending because she's his daughter and that she almost put the fuel cell at risk by attempting to come to the aid of the Rangers. However, the 2 incidents aside, Mitchell did get a lot better in future episodes, stepping in when he needed to, but then stepping back when the situation demanded it. I will say that his acting could have been better during the fate of Lightspeed. We see him shocked and standing at attention as the base collapses around him, but we don't really see that reflected in his face or the body language. The Wasserman factor is still in effect, but the synth music is definitely improved and is shades of the series' theme song. The lack of a rockin' soundtrack didn't feel as detrimental during this season as it had in Lost Galaxy. And interesting to note is that unlike the previous seasons, the Rangers are much quicker to pull their blasters. Which makes sense. During the Zordon era, we had martial artists through the first 6 seasons. Lost Galaxy, the Rangers utilized their Quasar Sabers for the majority of their combat, but that made sense for them considering they're the source of their powers. In this season, we're not dealing with martial artists, we're dealing with people who were specifically brought in to be combat soldiers. They don't waste time by bickering and punching, they're gonna shoot the damn thing to stop it as quickly as they can. Lightspeed Rescue is both different and familiar in a lot of ways. The stakes didn't seem as high as they had in previous seasons, but there's a very nice sense of optimism about it, that if you were living in Mariner Bay, you could rest easy knowing the Power Rangers were watching over you.
Right.
However, the lack of interesting villains was a detriment to an otherwise decent series. Lightspeed is not bad, but there are much better seasons, like next time, where we witness the timeless wonder that is Time Force.
Okay. Well, that was part 2, which is ending this Power Rangers series. We went through this quick, of Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue, and then the next one, I believe it is going to Time Force. So yeah, let me know what y'all think down below about this Power Rangers series. He said everything that I was gonna say, that I have said already. And so yeah, let me know what y'all think down below. As such, this has been Master Ryo Sakurai, and I will see y'all again next time. Peace.